guys, it's Phoebe from Who's Phoebe and welcome back to another Doctor Who video. As you guys know, I am doing 24 days of Doctor Who where I review 24 classic Doctor Who episodes, and there's only 2 more of these left now. I hope you guys appreciate the snail effect I put on the background of the video. Before we get started on this review, which is the Brain of Moribus, by the way, I've literally got the Seeds of Doom to film tomorrow, and then that's it. This is the brand new Doctor Who 2025 annual. This is the perfect Christmas gift for a Whovian. This is the perfect Christmas gift for a Whovian. It's got the Doctor and Ruby on the front, and then it's got 3 TARDISes at the back, and it's full of things like a foreword from Millie. I know this intro is quite long, but I want to show you this before we get into the review. It's got Who's the Doctor. It's got the Doctor's busiest day, so like snippets from the 60th. It's got Ruby Sunday. It's got also the TARDIS and how it all works. So you get like a TARDIS guide. You've got by generation. You've got the test, the security code. You kind of have to work out the secret message that the Doctor has left for you. If there was a guide, that'd be 10 times more easier. You've got the Goblin. You've got the Goblin King, which is quite good. You've got the Doctor's new sonic screwdrivers, 101 things you can do with the sonic screwdriver. You've also got things like the Bogeyman, which the Doctor has encountered. You've got the Doctor and Friends word search. Redheads reunite. You've got messages from the companions. You've got Meet the Beat. The Wrath Warriors, really hope we see him again. You've got things like the Maestro villains that the Doctor has encountered in the last series. Maestro's musical meddling. You've got the Toy Maker and things like that. You've got all sorts in this little thing. You've got mentions of the adventures of Boom, which I think is really, really cool. You've got things like Unit HQ in this. I'll get on to the review in a minute, but just want to show you this first. And then you've got the life of Ruby Sunday, which is like all plotted out and everything like that. And then you've got the No Things, which the Doctor and Donna encountered. And then you've got things, Welcome to Find Time, and basically you just have a load of puzzles in here. And you've got the Childers and the Grand Ball and the Rogue's Log and Spot the Difference and Defeating Mavity and Destination Skaro and what the Doctor got up to. Destination Skaro and everything, which was last year's Children Need Special. And then you've got Who Is She, that woman. And then you've got the Final Exam. And then you've got Who's Watch, which is all the episodes of the last series. So yeah. And then you've got the Doctor and Ruby as that. So yeah, that's a perfect gift for a Whovian. Anyway, let's go on with this review, because this intro is like 4 minutes long already. I didn't mean to make it that long, it just... So, this review, The Brain of Moribus, this is an interesting story. Because in this one, we meet the Sisterhoods of Khan, which later on would become the Doctor's allies, as in when the 8th Doctor landed on Khan, they helped him regenerate. So the Sisterhoods of Khan would become the Doctor's allies later on to help the Doctor regenerate into the War Doctor for the Time War. So, the Sisterhoods of Khan, great story. The Brain of Morbius, that's an interesting one because Morbius was a Time Lord. He's not a Time Lord we've ever known about before in Doctor Who history. It's not something that has ever, you know, ever come across in Doctor Who before. So it's interesting to have this because the Doctor has never landed on Khan before. And to quote the Doctor's wife, the TARDIS never took the Doctor where he wanted to go, but always where he needed to be. So he was needed on Khan at this precise moment. So it's interesting because one of the scientists there wants to kill the Doctor, take his brain, so Morbius can have his body. So this is really interesting because the Doctor wants to return Morbius's brain back to the Time Lords, because if the Time Lords have the brain, they can dispose of it in the traditional Time Lord way and give Morbius a sending off. Now, to this day, in this story, we still have no idea who Morbius is and what he did to get exiled from Gallifrey, because the Time Lords only exile other Time Lords if they have done a crime so bad that the Time Lords see exile as the correct and most effective punishment, like they did with the Doctor when they exiled him to Earth. So this story does have its downs. Like every Doctor Who story, there is bound to be a few downs. Eizabeth Sladen, who played the wonderful Sarah Jane Smith in this story, spends half this story blind. Yep, when she went to go rescue the Doctor from the Sisterhoods of Khan, a spark wrecked her sight temporarily and she couldn't see, so she spent a majority of the story until the very last part where she could actually see again blind. And that kind of annoys me a little bit because when companions go blind, it's usually a temporary thing. The Doctor can take one look and be like, oh, you'll be fine in a couple of hours, and things like that. So Sarah Jane sees Morbius coming off the table because this guy, I can't remember who it was, but he was pure evil. He transplanted the brain onto this animal type creature, and it tries to attack Sarah Jane, and she can see, so she manages to run away and warn the Doctor, and the Doctor thinks he's turned into Morbius when really he hasn't. And then we get this scene in the final part where the Doctor and Morbius battle it out on this, I don't know quite what it was this metal stand, and there was this like circle in the middle, and you could see the Doctor's past generations. So what's interesting about this story is it kind of relates to the Timeless Child that Chibnall put in, because you see a lot more of the Doctor's faces than just the current face, the third Doctor, the fourth and the first. It shows you that the Doctor has lived more lives than anyone, even though technically in Doctor Who lore, the first Doctor was the Doctor's first ever incarnation. But you do see more faces of the Doctor, showing you that he has lived more lives, but he obviously doesn't know it. And this final showdown with Morbius is interesting. However though, the negatives to this story is that the Doctor spends most of his time with the Sisterhood of Khan, I know the Sisterhood of Khan, many years later with the 12th Doctor and the War Doctor, actually become the Doctor's allies and help him out to an extent, which is absolutely fine. But the fact that the Doctor spends most of his time not with the mad scientist and spends it with the Sisterhood of Khan is interesting. He's obviously trying to get to know them, because the Sisterhood of Khan, the planet Khan, is their planet. That is their planet. That is where they live. That is where they perform these rituals they do all the time. So it's interesting, because the Doctor only really has ever seen the Sisterhood of Khan a couple of times. One of those occasions being this occasion, the first occasion, but the other time being like him turning into the War Doctor, because the Sisterhoods of Khan give him a drink in order to help him regenerate into the next incarnation. But we're going off on a little bit of a tangent here. I do like the Brain of Moribus. It's definitely more interesting than the android invasion, just as a whole story, just as a story as a whole. I feel like this story definitely becomes kind of interesting and everything like that. But it's just unfortunate that Sarah Jane Smith, I must admit, Eizabeth Sladen does an amazing acting job of pretending she's blind. It is literally the most amazing acting job anyone could do, like pretending you're blind. But I feel like this story does lack things, because initially when the Doctor landed on Khan, he assumed it was the Time Lords interfering. As it turns out, that was not the case. The Time Lords were not interfering in this case, because there was somebody luring Time Lords in order to kill them so they could have their brain. And the fact that the Doctor automatically assumed that it was the Time Lords who sent him to Khan, because this is where the TARDIS landed, is interesting. It just shows you how paranoid the Doctor can get. After all his years of exile on Earth, he still thinks sometimes, I'm not saying the Doctor automatically thinks this all the time, but since the Time Lords gave the Doctor back his freedom, gave him a brand new materialisation circuit in all of this, and the Doctor's been back exploring the freedom of the universe and all of this, it's funny that the Doctor automatically, when he lands on Khan, thinks the Time Lords are behind this, because he thinks they interfered with his TARDIS and made him land on that planet. So it's interesting seeing the Doctor get angry, because you have to remember, since the Doctor's exile, the Doctor has never been on the best terms with the Time Lords since the whole exile stuff, as a punishment, because they sent him to destroy the Daleks as well. So he's never really, so him and the Time Lords weren't really on the best kind of side. But when the Doctor finds out that the Time Lords didn't actually send him there, it kind of all makes sense to him as to why he was sent there. But, you know, each their own. So overall, the Brain of Moribus is a really, really, really good story. I like it. It's definitely a favourite in the fandom, and it's no wonder. It is such a good story. So overall, I would say I'd give this story a 9 out of 10 because it's really good. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up if you did, and make sure you hit that big red subscribe button down below, and also click the notifications bell so you get notifications every single time I upload, because I really do appreciate the support. Apologies for the long intro. I wanted to show you the new 2025 Doctor Who annual that has just recently come out. I bought it for myself as a Christmas present. Don't ask. As of tomorrow, or the day you're watching this, I will be with my family. So the very last episode of 24 Days of Doctor Who actually goes out Christmas Eve. Yeah, Christmas Eve, because this goes out the day you're watching this, on the 23rd. So yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow for another video. And I'm now going to pack my camera away and get ready to leave tomorrow. Allons-y.